Okay, welcome
Rolling.
everybody to the Nashville Producer Meetup. We got a amazing special guest here with us tonight. We got Shalom J.Storm Miller.
Yeah.
Give it up. Yeah. All right. So we're going to go deep on some different questions that I have for him, but, I love just a little bit of a kind of quick highlights of the background first before we dive into the questions. If you got it, you
Sure.
want to just kind of share a little bit about your path. What led you here?
What led me here to home or just in this point in life?
Either one.
Yeah,
or both.
Because we got how much time? Yeah, man. What basically got me here to, I guess, this point in you guys' interest in even being here is my beginnings in pretty much where all musicians get their start in the church world, right? Most musicians, I should say, in popular music. I grew up in. I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey. I grew up in many parts of New Jersey, primarily a small town, a little big town called Plainfield, New Jersey. They would kill me if I said small town. And that's kind of where things really catapulted. I mean, there's a long story. I guess we'll talk about some of that. But I was part of a youth program in Plainfield, New Jersey called Youth Entertainment Academy, which was funded by the George Bush administration. And up until that time, I had been reared in music. Coming from a church background, I had played with a lot of notable gospel artists and, been honing my craft. I had became a pretty
What was your
musician.
Instrument of choice at that point in time?
Oh, of course, drums.
Drums.
Of course,
okay.
drums. Yeah. Everybody, most people start on drums. You got to get the rhythm. You got to know the foundations. So my dad, who was the music director at our church, he started me on drums, and I got good. It was just part of my fabric. So it came kind of naturally, and with that, I like I said, I had the chance to play for some of the most notable gospel artists like the Winans, sat in for them, John P. Key, and several others. But fast forward, I ended up in this program called the Youth Entertainment Academy in Plainfield, New Jersey, funded by the George Bush administration. And through that, they had a small studio set up in there, and they taught you the ins and outs of the music business. And one of the counselors, he gradually started to see me and my partner at the time. He was like, "Man, you guys are like ahead of your time. Like you're like 17 years old and you made that. You know what I mean?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Little did he know I had been doing it for 3-4 years by that time already. So he said, "Hey man, I got somebody I want to hear your music. You mind if I get a beat tape, cassette tapes? Remember that?" Mm-hmm. Nah, a little dating myself.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah. Most of us remember cassette. So he took one of my cassette tapes and played it for someone who was a guy by the name of Kenny Williams, who went by Kill. He ran a record label, and he heard he was looking for a new sound. He wanted something kind of contemporary, kind of pop, and because of the school of thought and ear that I came from, which was like commercial music, Missy Elliott, Timbaland, and Neptunes and things like that, that was where my sound was. So he heard it and he was like, "Oh man, this is exactly what we need." And he bought my first beat from me. Bought a first beat, and he was like, "I don't want this to just be a one-time thing. I like this kid. I want to bring him on, and we want to do some more stuff with him." So I became the in-house producer for his record label, and the guy whose studio we went to, his name was Rashad Muhammad, and he ran a studio called Fourth Quarter Studios. And once he started seeing I was really consistent, he was like, "Man, this kid he's like really doing it." I thought it might be a one-off thing, but no, this kid got something. Like, bring him to the studio. I want to have him come in and work. So I started working at the studio, and Rashad was really well connected, man. He knew everybody. He had worked on the Fugees albums, and he worked on pretty much all of the stuff that was coming out of New Jersey, Queen Latifah and all of that stuff. So he was a big, OG in the game. And he plugged me with this team called Diggaz, and they were on the come up at the time. Very under the radar, but bubbling because they had a couple of placements on a few projects. And they had just inked a deal with Missy Elliott, and they were getting a lot of work. And they were like, we can't facilitate all of this work. We need some new producers to come and get down on the team. So Rashad, he made a little play for me to be introduced to him and to let them hear some of my tracks. And one of the first tracks I got to work on with them was Beyonce and Missy Elliott, a song called Fighting Temptations. And unbeknownst to me, I didn't know I was going to be working on this song. So when I heard it, I was just blown away. But that started.
Was this before Beyonce was Beyonce?
This was right. This was when Destiny's Child was Destiny's Child.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
This was after Survivor. So yeah, Beyonce was Beyonce, but she wasn't Beyonce. She was Beyonce from Destiny's Child. But she was on her way to becoming, because everybody knew her as the powerhouse of the group. And this is right before, like literally a couple of months before Crazy in Love dropped. So this record, I'm working on this record, and it's everything to me. And then fast forward a little bit, because of that introduction, Sean Bless from the Soul Diggaz, he brought me onto the team. He said, man, we looking for somebody like you, and we want you to be part of our team. We want you to get down with the team. I said, absolutely, whatever. So that brought me into the Missy Elliott house of production. And, after that, it was just an onslaught of just, thing after thing after thing. And it was crazy for me, but I had to quickly acclimate because you don't get a chance to mess up in that environment. That's the real deal. Mm-hmm. So, jumping into it, man, that's what really led me here, man. Really just that connection after connection, and then having to really just adjust and, prepare myself for the next thing, real quick. And eventually, man, like I said, through those connections, I got to work with some of the biggest artists in the world, Gwen Stefani, Pink, Alicia Keys, name after name after name. So yeah, man, it was kind of like a Cinderella story, I say, because that's not how it normally happens. You know what I mean? But it's more nuanced than that. I'm just kind of giving you the highlights. The highlight story. But yeah, that's how I got to kind of where I am today, man.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So clap it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Thank you.
So being signed to Missy Elliott's label at just 19, what did you know then that most young producers today don't? And what do you wish that you had known at that point in time?
Yeah, man, I love that question. What I did know, like I said, I had a great foundation in music. So I was very, very well-rounded. By the time I got down with the team, they saw that I was already a great songwriter. I write R&B songs, and my vision was to be a rapper. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to rap. That was what it was for me. I had been practicing for years. I had maybe 5 years of rap skills under my belt by the time I got there. So and then coming from the gospel realm, and my father being a music director, my mother being a gospel singer, I grew up with these music theory fundamentals. So I already had that built into me. And, taking that into that world, I think people were shocked at how prepared I was to be a producer. Mm-hmm. When
the fundamentals.
Yeah, just having the fundamentals. I remember one time I was working with one of our guitar players, our main guitar player at the Soul Diggaz. His name was Mike Weidman, rest in peace. And me and Mike were working on the track, and Sean Bless came in, and he heard the track we were working on. He was like, "That's pretty good." And he said, for a rookie. And Mike said, "Experienced rookie." And so that's one of the things that, I kept getting that. I was a very experienced rookie. And then another thing is, I don't know where it came from. Maybe I'll go see my therapist for it. But I think I had something to prove, and because I always outworked everybody, in whatever room I was in, I would always outwork whoever was around me. And I think it's a little bit of an imposter syndrome, because I was never, other than being a good drummer, and then, falling into decent drummer to, after I got into music production, I really was surrounded by amazing musicians, and I think it really kind of gave me an imposter syndrome of, man, I don't know how to play keys like that, or I don't know how to do this or play bass, blah, 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 blah. Like, how am I a producer when I just make beats and rap and write songs? Because at that time, that's really not what a producer was. You know what I mean? It was. Now a producer is kind of like this
right. You're
culmination of everything.
You're looking at a Quincy Jones,
yeah, I was more like a Quincy Jones. I was an idea man. You know what I mean? Whereas, most of the people that I was in the room with were amazing musicians, and that's what a lot of people in the industry respected. So I think I just did my own therapy. Clap that up, yeah. but no, like I really had to outwork everybody just to make myself feel like I belonged in a room, and I think I had that as well. So I was prepared, even though I was young. I was immature. I wasn't prepared in that way, but as far as skill, I was very prepared fundamentally. But then when I look back on what I wish I would have known, for the second part of your question, definitely, man, aspects of the business. I think because of that youth and the immaturity that I came in the game with, I was very dependent on somebody else doing the business for me. And that is a grave error in this business. You know what I mean?
Preach.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that, and honestly, I lose sleep over it to this day, because there's certain things that I missed out on waiting for someone to advocate for me or to make that proper deal for me. I'll be honest. I'm not going to say nobody's name, but I lost out on a $500,000 publishing deal because I didn't not know how to, but I didn't want to advocate for myself in that publishing deal. So I said, you go handle it for me, and not realizing that they were trying to get something out of it themselves. And I'll save you the details of it. Up. But yeah, because they couldn't get what they wanted out of the deal, they said no. And I said, wait, that's my deal. Well, I probably should have handled it myself. Even if it would have went awry, because at 19, 20 years old, I didn't know how to sit at the office with Big John and Big John Platt and all of these people and really negotiate the deal. But if it was going to go wrong, I would have probably felt a lot better had it been on me versus had it been on somebody else. So I think that's one thing, man. I really would have wished I'd known a little bit more. Just kind of like take it on yourself. You don't need people to advocate for you or people to do it for you. You know what I mean? Especially when you have the talent. I was the talent, you know what I mean? So people really wanted to have the conversation with me. I remember times where, I'll be playing beats for an artist, and right then and there, they're ready to do the deal. They're like, oh my God, like, yo, how can I get this beat? And I'm like, and then, other people who were over me would come in the room and be like, let's go have a meeting. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's my beat. You know what I mean? Like, why are you having a meeting about my track? And then they'll go in the office, have the meeting, and come out with a number or a deal that I wasn't privy to. Like, you know what I mean? So stuff like that, I'm very aware of now, and I teach other artists about now. Really kind of how to advocate for yourself. At the same time, how to properly partner. You know what I mean? So those are some things. Yeah.
No, it's really, really good. We coach a lot of, artists and producers, and always remind people, yes, it's a team effort, but you got to be the leader of your own life.
It's baseball, man.
You got to be the leader, though. And I think that's maybe what you're speaking to, is just learning, especially at that age. You were in the pool of sharks, so to speak, and
absolutely.
And everybody, was kind of hungry for what you were doing, and you got kind of caught in the middle of it. So,
yeah, and it's just part of it, because the thing about it is when I look back on it, it's like, coulda, woulda, shoulda, maybe should have, or maybe should not have. But at the end of the day, those are the lessons. You know what I mean? I think, at that age, I remember a comedian. I can't remember her name. The black woman from Saturday Night Live. She was doing an interview, And she said, you know, I wasn't supposed to get it, you know, when I was at that point. You know what I mean? It wasn't, you know, when I was that talented, I wasn't supposed to get the success. It wasn't for me to get the success at that time. It was for something else. And that's how I take those lessons, man. It wasn't really about, you know, me being, you know, with that team and having those experiences wasn't really about making money or, you know, having success. It was about me learning the lessons that I can take later on, because the thing about it is, you know, of course we get in the game to do what we love and make money and, you know, have the jewels and things like that. Maybe not every, you know, but that's what I wanted. But yeah, you know, we want all of that stuff that we see, but what we don't realize is there's levels to that. You know what I mean? And then the first level is down there. You know what I mean? Before you can climb up. So I think for me, those lessons weren't really about success. It was more so about maturity and getting smart in the game so that I can be here, you know, in my early 40s. Now, today in 2025, still having opportunities. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man,
right.
Preach. You know what I'm saying? So
40's a new 30.
Hey, listen, I feel great. But yeah, that's what it was for me, man. It wasn't for me to really, you know, so I can't be like, you know, oh man, I did this wrong. It wasn't really a wrong or a right thing I did. It was what happened and what needed to happen at that time so that I can, you know, have 20 plus years longevity in the game now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I've heard a lot of your productions and some wildly different stuff. Like you said, you started in gospel, and recently I heard a country record that you put out. And so when you're kind of moving between genres and you might get in a new room that's outside of your comfort zone, how do you handle that? Do you kind of prepare beforehand? Do you just trust your intuition when you get in the studio?
Yeah, man, that's an interesting. It's an interesting question for me because, you know, I would love to answer it like straightforward, but I have to be honest, man. Like with the level of intensity and immersion that I've had in the industry, I've had an amazing opportunity to do pretty much everything. You know what I mean? Almost everything. And if I haven't done a particular thing, I've done something similar enough to it to make me, comfortable, so to speak. So I don't really have anything that's specifically out of my comfort zone. Maybe not so much well versed, but at the same time, I think because I've survived so many uncomfortable situations, I have enough resources now that allow me to prepare for it. So for instance, if like a label or a company or something commissions me for a project, and it may be something like, for instance, I'll just give you an example right now. So I'm scoring now. Okay. I just did a really awesome deal with SongTrader. Have you heard of SongTrader?
Yeah, I've heard of
one of the biggest sync companies in the world. We did a great deal a few weeks ago, and we've been having a blast together. It's been a great partnership so far. Shout out to Massive Music and SongTrader and our Bandcamp. But one of the things they have me doing now is scoring to film or scoring to video. Now I've done some of that, but this level of it is a lot more. So, it puts me in a position to not execute so much for myself, but to tap into my resources. And that's where I find my skill is. As a producer, I found that it's not so much about me being able to take these hands and then do the thing, but whose hands can I use and whose hands do I have access to that can do the thing to that level. So that's what makes me comfortable, because if someone calls me and says, hey, you know what, we have this project and we want to do a complete classical composition. Well, I'm not classically trained, but guess what? I know at least 5 producers who love me and want to work with me, who are dying to do a project with me for the last few years. So now I finally have something that we can do together.
Yeah,
or something beautiful. Like that. So that's what really kind of keeps me out of my comfort, keeps me from being uncomfortable in those situations. is having a massive pool of resources and community that I can reach out to. And I have a saying, and I tell people honestly, I've had very little success on my own. Like if you look at things that I've done just me alone, you know, it's a minute portion of my career. But if you incorporate the things that I've tapped into, you know, my friends and my community and the music community and this musician and this producer and this songwriter and blah, 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 this executive, that's where the bulk of my career is. So I don't focus so much on being a great musical person. I focus more on being a great relationship builder. And anybody who knows me will tell you, I love Jay, man. That's my dude, man. That's my guy. Because that's where my real skill is, being a person of value. One of my favorite sayings is from Michelangelo. He says, the artist Michelangelo, he says, it's better, the promises of this world are for the most part vain phantoms. It is better to become a person, it is the safest and best course of action to become a person of value. And that's what I take to heart. I focus on being a person that you and you and you and you can be like, I like that dude, man. He's a good guy, man. Like, he really is cool. And, you know, beyond the music, if we've never done music together, you know that I got your back, and I can say that and you got mine. You know what I mean? So, long story short, those having that type of relationship base and community pool is what keeps me from ever feeling like I can't perform or I can't commit in any environment or any opportunity, comfort zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I always remind people that technically the producer just means that you're responsible for the finished product.
Really?
Doesn't mean you have to do everything.
Exactly.
You know, that's how I've produced some pretty awesome projects too.
Absolutely, man.
And it's similar where I just knew how to tap the resources and the people around me and move the pieces on the chessboard and come out with something at the end that's, you know, outstanding. And, you know, as much as we're in a city, you know, like Nashville, just filled with virtuoso creators that, you know, can literally do everything.
Everything, yeah.
Being the person that knows how to leverage those people is actually probably more valuable.
Way
right?
more valuable, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really good strong answer, and I think just a good takeaway for people to remember.
Absolutely.
You know, that I think sometimes gets lost because, especially, you know, like back in the day, the producer always had an engineer.
Right.
You
yeah,
know,
it was
that
like
was
a
like the
dynamic
recording,
duo.
the person responsible for recording the thing.
Absolutely.
And mixing the
Mixing
thing.
it.
And, you know, the producer's a project manager, hiring the right musicians or coaching the talent,
Yep.
you know, and now when you say producer, it means that, like, you're making the beats, you're recording, you're mixing.
I don't even think people take that much into account. I think they just think about who did the music.
Who did the music, right?
Yeah, who did the music.
The composer, really.
Yeah, you're a songwriter. And I tell people that all the time. If you're making music, you're not a producer, you're a songwriter. I don't want to cut you off.
No, this is important.
But it's important to realize this, man. Like you said, a producer is like a project manager, right? And you need that. You need that.
Yeah.
And so when you look at here in Nashville, what a producer is, and I had to explain this to an executive recently. Crazy, right? Because they couldn't understand why my price was my price as a music producer because they're used to a certain format. They said, you know, well, so I took them through the rigors. I said, all right, tell me how you produce a record in country. They said, well, you know, first, we hired, what is a producer in country? He said, well, a producer is, you know, you hire the musicians, whether they're union or whatever the case, and I was like, you gotta pay for that, right? You gotta pay the union. You gotta pay the union for the drummer, the organist, the pedal steel player, the guitarist, the acoustic player, blah, 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 blah. You gotta pay the union for all of that, right? And then you have to pay the producer and blah, 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 blah. He said, yeah, exactly. I said, well, in commercial music, pop, hip hop, R&B, I do all of that. I am the drummer. I am the key player. I am the pedal steel player. So I get paid for those things as well as being the producer. It's just consolidated into one person. That's why my fee is my fee. You're still getting all of those performances. You're just not having to pay 7 people to do it. It's still the same price though.
Yeah.
So when I told him, he was like, you know what? That actually makes a lot
hold their
of
feet
sense.
to the fire.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
It's another big takeaway, right? Knowing your value.
Absolutely,
That's a
man.
hard one for musicians, right?
That's a huge one for musicians.
It's a real challenge. I think for people in general, it's a hard thing, but especially musicians, it's like drilled into our heads that you're just not going to make much money, and then that translates subconsciously into you're not worth.
You're not as good. Maybe you're not as good as
much,
exactly
right.
Yeah.
And so what I find is so much of the game with coaching musicians and creators ends up being a mindset thing, and you can kind of see that when certain people keep finding new opportunities, new success. It's like they believe it, and then other people that are insanely talented, just for some reason there's that strange belief there that they're not worthy or they're not enough.
Absolutely.
And so they don't attract those people and those opportunities to them.
Absolutely.
So, creative disagreements happen in the studio and in production, and I'm wondering, as somebody, I mean, you're pretty laid back, and you've collaborated with a ton of different people. How do you handle that whenever the creative disagreements happen, and how do you kind of prioritize the relationship, as those things pop up?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely multi-layered, man. Because creative disagreements can start with the actual product, which is being in the studio making the music. I don't like that line, or blah blah blah. This and that too. How do we market this song, and all the way down to what the artist should wear. You know what I mean? I've had blowouts with artists that I work with because I might have been taking them to a meeting or a meet and greet and something, and I'm like, don't wear that. Oh, this is my expression, and this is who I am, and this is what I'm like. You look goofy as hell. You know what I mean? But so stuff like that. So, but one thing I always keep in mind is, at the end of the day, who does it affect the most? And I think just like and I'm not don't get me wrong when I say like this, but I'm a dad too, right? And I have a teenager and I have a preteen. My daughter's 11, and I'm going to talk about her because she's a creative. But raising her, I raised my daughter just like I develop artists because she is an artist. So our relationship is more like an artist development relationship, and I have to give her the room, even though I know that ain't what you want. You know what I mean? But okay, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just have to say that because it's going to affect you more than it affects me. And then just like when I was 19 and when like I said, those lessons when, I'm like, coulda, shoulda, woulda, I had to experience that because that's what ingrained it into me. Nothing teaches you more like touching the fire and actually saying, oh, shit, it is hot. You know what I mean? So sometimes you just got to let them touch the fire because at the end of the day, I'm blessed to be where I am in my career. And I tell artists, I say it all the time. I tell artists, I tell anybody, executives who I'm working with, partners, I say, listen, I'm good. You know what I mean? I'm good. But just know this is going to affect you more than it affects me. So you can do it my way. And if I'm wrong, great. Okay, cool. I was wrong. I'll be the first to admit it. But, if you're wrong, then you have to do the same. You know what I mean? And you have to own that. So I think ownership is the key in really just holding people accountable for their choices and being supportive. But then at the same time, because my resume and my brand is what it is, there's certain times when I do have to flex that. I'm like, Beyonce, 4 albums, that might mean something. You know, Missy Elliott, 5 years, 6 years. I work with the best of the best. You might want to listen. And then sometimes they do. Sometimes I'm like, you know what? You're right. You know, let me try it your way. And then I'm not going to lie. It's, you know, that moment when they do actually do it my way and it's like, you were right. I'm like, I know. You know what I mean? But really, at the end of the day, it's just relationship based. It's really that give and take, that reciprocity where, you know, sometimes you just have to, relent. You have to know, and that's part of being a producer, you know, a project manager. You have to know when it actually matters. You know, is this a teachable moment or is this a pivotal moment? Pivotal moments, I might have to pull rank a little bit, but those teachable moments, touch it.
Let them learn a lesson.
Yeah, I told you it was hot. You know what I mean? So, you know, it's really just a myriad of things, man. But it's that rhythm. You know what I mean? It's that rhythm of building a relationship, that dance that you do as you're building that relationship, and then, like you said, one thing that took me the longest is understanding my value and really accepting my value and being like, okay, you know, I'm probably as good as I think I am. Probably. I'm not going to say that out loud. I just did. But this is stuff I say to myself. I'm probably as experienced as I think I am. So I probably can trust what I know. Probably, right? So I'm going to lean on that because I'd rather do that than underestimate myself and then be wrong. I'd rather not overestimate. I'd rather lean to my experience and what I know about myself and be wrong versus underestimate myself and be wrong. So, you know, when I do that, it puts me in a place of confidence. And when you're confident, then other people can be confident in you. So, yeah, it's a long answer, but, you know.
No, that's actually
just give and take.
A really interesting way to think about it because, you know, if you play it out in your mind, like if you overestimate what you're capable of, how does that play out in your life versus if you underestimate what you're capable of?
Exactly.
And how does that play out in your life?
And I always say
that's
that, man.
That's an interesting thought experiment for people because you're never going to be perfectly right.
You're never going to be perfectly right.
So you might as well err on the side.
You might as well err on the side. But the thing is, if you have the numbers to say that you can do the thing or you're good at the thing, go with that. Go with the facts. And that's the thing that people don't do. You'll have the facts that say you are as good as you think, you are as talented, you are this, you are that, and then we'll still be like, nah, I'm not ready. Like, why? You're playing yourself. Like what DJ Khaled, congratulations, you played yourself. You know? So don't play yourself, man. Really err on the side of your talent, err on the side of your experience. And I think if you do that, then, like I said, I think more people they'll see your confidence and they'll be like, well, if they're that confident in themselves, then they probably are right. Because I know I don't have that. I don't have the confidence. I don't have the years. I don't have the resume. I don't have the this or that. You know, so that I've had to learn how to lean toward that, and it's taken a lot of time. Like I said, imposter syndrome is a MF, man.
Yeah. So other than the, not believing in yourself and the sort of imposter syndrome, which are kind of like mindset things, what are some mistakes that common mistakes that you see producers and other creators making, as they're kind of getting seasoned?
It's funny, man, and I'm, as when I do talks like this and things like that, I never want to come off as that that old producer who's like, yeah, these young guys, they ain't doing it like we used to. They messing up the game. And so I see so many things on like Instagram and more so Instagram, where like, older producers are shooting down what has become the new model, right? So I don't really lean to what they're doing wrong. I just look at what the new model is, because I think it goes back to what you said, Logan. It's really about having value. I think maybe in the second decade, let me take you back a little bit. I was part of the first wave of online beats, when you can get beats online. I remember that because I was just coming out of my relationship with Bad Boy. Bad Boy Records. And one of the executives there, his name was Conrad DeMonchi. He started a company called PMP Worldwide, and it was like the first platform where he would find producers and put their beats online and sell them and get them opportunities. And he wanted me to be part of that, but you know, I'm like, put my beats online. Oh my God, no, what? Oh my God. But then it became a thing, and I was like, oh snap. It's kind of like how we feel about AI now. I'm like, we're cooked. Producers are cooked. You mean to tell me this young guy over here is willing to put 50 of his beats online? Because, you know, you got to understand, back then we had value in our stuff. Like we were getting 15,000, 30,000 per track without question. Wow. You know what I mean? Like we would walk into a label and, you know, and this, it's funny because even at that time, you know, my big homie, so to speak, would tell me, oh man, Jay, you missed out on the days when we used to get 50,000. I'm like, damn, I'm only getting 30. You know what I mean? Like, so when I saw these young producers putting 50, 60 beats online for $100 each, you know, and then the price is dropping down. I'm like, now we are cooked. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that was, especially in the second decade, that was rampant, you know, online beats and things like that. And it worked out well for some producers. A lot of guys got on like that. So I can't say it was wrong, but I do understand that they themselves understand that they've oversaturated the market. So I think they're correcting that now. And I think young producers now are really taking efforts to make themselves a brand, which is the smart thing, because we can't go back. We cook the market, like when it comes to beats, and now we got AI, so we don't really need your beats. You know what I mean? Like what do you offer now as a producer? Well, things like this, stories about, you know, how to not repeat the past, and those cool stories about hanging out with Missy Elliott and blah, 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 blah. So really building your brand, making yourself something interesting and having something of value to tell about your journey is really something that young producers who now are becoming seasoned producers have to offer the market versus just having beats. Because like I said, I mean, we cook. We got AI, which, and I'm not against AI. I love AI. But beats, come on. Yeah. You know, I could do 50 beats today after this meeting. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So we just have to, you know, I think younger producers are now having to find new ways to brand themselves and bring value to the market, and I think they're doing that. So I think they realize what they've done wrong, which is undervalue themselves and oversaturate the market. And I mean, you know, you're a businessman, so you know that never goes well in any industry. No. If you undervalue and oversaturate, the product is trash. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think they've realized that, but we're course correcting now. So, yeah.
I think that's really a wise statement. And, you know, I do believe that it's weird because it simultaneously makes it easier to do everything by yourself. But I think that, you know, the synergy that comes from collaboration is probably going to be magnified even more because of this. Yeah. Where there's going to be basically this sort of baseline of stuff that's just okay, and it's just like pretty good. Pretty you know? Good. It's all right. And then you're going to have these things that people are bumping into each other and collaboratively making and putting their different creative spin, their different inspiration on things. And if we can actually just scale up the amount of things that get done that way, I do think there's actually another opportunity for a sort of like golden era of music production, because, you know, the tools are now basically getting just so easy to use. It's crazy. And you know, but it's gonna, like, I do feel like it's gonna stand out even more, that stuff that's truly excellent.
Absolutely.
You know, in your ability to create a lot more of that than you were able to before. You just increase, because it is a numbers game with music, especially if you're talking about royalty.
Right.
Not, I got one sync placement that was six figures or whatever.
That did his thing, yeah.
But like people that are making a lot of money from streaming, for instance, it's because they have a ton of records out.
Yeah,
exactly. A stupid number of records out.
Yeah, I told an artist recently, I said, man, what do you think is more realistic to happen for you? Getting one record that has 1 million, and he's a new artist. So I said, getting one record with 1 million streams, or getting 10 records with 100,000 streams. You know what I mean? So he was like, when you put it like that, it makes perfect sense. I was like, you're gonna have to work. You have to cook up more.
And the AI makes that possible, and
it does.
And so I think that if people stay focused on like, okay, now I can use my taste.
Yeah.
And I don't have to put as much into the tools
you know what,
themselves, and it's just like your taste, your brand, like you're talking about, like your creative spin that you put on things, and that's having the little pieces of it.
That's going to be the difference maker, because and that's one reason why. I've been experimenting with AI for a few years now, even before it is what it is now. Mm-hmm. And I realized that it reminds me of one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you all have ever saw this movie called Limitless, right, with Bradley Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Right. One of my favorite lines in the movie is when he's sitting across from the guy who gave him his first sample of the NZT, right? And he's telling him about all the stuff that the drug does. And then he says, he's like, wow, oh my God, I'm about to be able to. And then he looks at him and says, well, it works better if you're already smart. And that's
right.
And that's how AI is.
Yeah.
You know what
totally.
I mean? Like, and that's one thing that I'm experiencing with AI, because it's not. I've been at the points where I'm like, make me this track, and I get the results, and I'm like, but then I'm like, I got this drum pattern, or I'll record an idea, and I'm like, and I'll give it the idea, and I'll say, and I'll upload that idea, and then I'll say, but my drums, I need industrial drums. I need this. I need the pattern to be 6/8. I need this, and I need it in B minor, and I need it at a halftime 54 BPM. We could do 108, but I want it at 54 because 54 has different swing, and then blah 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 blah. And then I say I want to use these sounds, and then it spits it out, and I'm like, that's me. All you've done is optimize me. However, I like it, but let me extract that, and then now I'm gonna do my thing to it because I'm already smart. So you gave me a head start, but now let me put my spin on it, and I've come up with some amazing stuff. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like, I'm not gonna say some of the best stuff I've done, but on par.
Right.
I've come up with some stuff that I'm very impressed that I had, almost as if I had an excellent co-producer with. You know what I mean? So if you're willing to put the time into taking what you have to offer it, you can really be efficient and really optimize your efficiency with this new thing. And I think Timbaland, who's catching a lot of slack right now, I think that's what he's trying to get people to understand. If you're creative, and not just in music, it's the same thing with book writers and this and that and this and that. Don't just prompt it. Really spend the time and put you into it. You know what I mean? And when you do that, you'll be right on par for the next 5 years of evolution that we're about to experience. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it works better if you're already smart.
It magnifies your like executive function
Absolutely,
of being able to like give it a clear definition of what the outcome should be.
Absolutely.
And so the more you truly understand
how to communicate,
what to do, and what needs to be done, and how to communicate it, as if you were communicating it to a team of humans, right?
Or an executive or an assistant.
Make me a beat, and then expect that to be good. But if you can, clearly communicate what you want, and so it's funny because you still don't get to skip the
creative process,
learning
exactly
what needs to be done,
because you still have to know theory. Like
Yeah.
you have to know, like it's gonna, like I said, it works better if you're already smart. So if you've already gotten your degree, not necessarily a degree, but if you already have theory, if you already are an excellent songwriter, if you're already an excellent producer, it's gonna be that much better for you. And that's what I've been experiencing, man. It's
Totally.
awesome experience, really. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited about AI too. We'll plug the AI meetup. It's happening on the first Friday of every month. So if y'all are interested, come out for that. We're going to talk more about it. You should come out to it too. We had our first one a couple weeks ago, and it was really a special event.
Nice.
And it's we're really trying to bring all the people, all the builders together to have these conversations, because
we should do a showcase too. To show how
it's super important. Yeah, we can feature you at the next one if you want.
I'm there, man. Yeah, say less.
But it's happening with or without us. Promise you that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And it's happening super, super fast. So we can either learn to leverage it and harness it and turn it into a tool for good and for creativity, or we can just...
Or you can be antiquated and go out like the dinosaurs.
Yeah, basically. Or let other people basically outcompete you just because they do know how to use it.
Exactly.
And I'm not an extremely competitive person. I try to be more collaborative, but the reality is, your life and your business is primarily a function of your output. So if you can increase your output,
right,
then you will increase your overall business success.
Absolutely. I think people put too much and forgive me when I say it like this, because this is the Capricorn in me. But I think people put too much emphasis on the emotional part of or collaboration, and not enough on the logistical part. You know what I mean? Because I have a saying, and I'm probably not the only one to say this. You hear me say that a lot. I have a saying for a lot of things. But in order, you have to do well in order to do good, right? Like, we all want to do good in the world, but if you're not well, wellness is a state, right, of being. You have to be well. Like, my health, my mindset, I'm well. But when I do good, that means I'm able to collaborate. That means I'm able to be benevolent. That means I'm able to put good out in the world. But I can't do that if I'm focused on my business isn't doing good, my finances aren't doing good, my household isn't well, my health isn't well. So first, relationships, whatever the case, you have to focus on wellness first, and that goes to what you're saying. Like, you have to be efficient. Your business has to be on point. Your finances, you have to be able to have peace of mind in the logistics of everything, and then I feel a little bit better about giving that homeless guy $2 extra. You know what I mean? When I'm not worried about my gas tank, so on and so forth. You know what I'm saying? So, that's how I put it. You know what I mean? Like, so going to your point, you know what I mean? Like, I love collaborating. I love the people aspect of things, but I also understand that if I'm less comfortable doing that when I'm not in a position to put you in position.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, I want to make sure everybody has some time to network and get in the studios and listen to some music and stuff before the end of the event. And we're going to give everybody a chance to ask a question or two. We'll do a few minutes of Q&A. If anybody has anything, I want you to be thinking about it. Give me just 1 second. We're going to bring a mic around for you here in just a second. But before that happens, do you have anything else that you want to leave as a takeaway for the audience?
As a takeaway, man, let's see. So many things. We touched on so many good things. You asked some good questions, man. Those were some really good questions. I think I would leave with what I just said, man. You know, in this business, especially going forward, in this town, especially, Nashville is so saturated with talent, man. It's talent left and right. I think the future belongs to those who have a foundation. And I think I heard a conversation going on in the hallway where a gentleman was talking about how You know, back in the day, you can do one thing, you know what I mean? And then, but nowadays, you have to be so multifaceted. I didn't catch the whole gist of the conversation. I just heard that part. But really focusing on being a connector, you know what I mean? And in order to be a connector, you have to step outside of your comfort zone and be able to touch many different things so that you can do good in the world. You know, it might challenge you. You might have to take a class. You might have to spend a little bit extra time doing this. But, you know, these are things that I've done. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm never going to tell you something that I haven't done myself. That's all I know. I just happen to have a wealth of experience in doing many things. You know what I'm saying? So I would say, man, take that and really become somebody who is, Jim Carrey had a movie called Yes Man. You know, if you have an opportunity to learn something or do a thing, just say yes, because you'll be that much better for it, and then you'll be that much more capable of doing good. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, clap it up. I always tell people, say yes until you have to start saying no.
Yeah, and there's a method to saying no too. I'm actually writing a book called the 24 Power Move Personas, and one of the chapters is called The King's No, and it focuses on the power of no and the different levels of saying no and the impacts that no has. It's not just no. No is a thing, you know.
Interesting.
So, but yeah, we'll talk about that another time.
So you gotta keep an eye out for the book then.
Yeah. Looking at next year.
All right. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Alan Brooks. I'm an artist, photographer, and a fashion designer here in Nashville, Tennessee. My question for you today is, let's say if you started in like today's era and you're 20 years old, what's your course of action to obtaining the success that you have in your career so far?
You know, it's interesting, man, because the success that I've had is definitely, and I'll be honest about it, is definitely tied to a different model, right? So when you look at, you know, working with a Beyonce or a Missy Elliott or Gwen Stefani or a Pink or blah, 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 that was the ability to do those things was based on a culture. It was based on an economic system. It was based on a cultural system. It was based on a technological system that really doesn't exist anymore. So really, if I was where I was, because I was 20 years old, 19, 20 years old when I got into the industry, I would still take the same energy into it. But I think having the understanding that I have now, I would really take the time to focus on what my objectives were. You know what I mean? Because what is your true objective? Because you yourself, you're multifaceted already. For me, at that time, I was one-pointed. It was, I want to make music. That was it. Everything else came later. But for me, it was first, I want so-and-so to hear my beats. I want so-and-so to hear my raps, to hear my songs. And that was it. I didn't get into all of these other things until that was kind of locked down. So I think that will be the first thing I do. I would look at, and this is another thing I coach artists on and other talent. I would sit down and I would write what I call my real resume, right? We spend so much time writing resumes for jobs that we apply for, but we don't want those jobs. That's not what you really want to do. Why do we spend so much time applying for stuff that we don't even really want to do? If you want to be a fashion designer, then do that, because the fact of the matter is, just going back to what you said earlier, Logan, there's something in your mind that's telling you that if I put all my time and energy into that, I can't really make money doing that. I can't really be successful doing that. But guess what? There's a person that works at Louis Vuitton doing the thing you want to do, making $250,000 a year, living the life that you want to live. There's somebody, I say this all the time. I was telling a friend, I was like, you've never heard of a successful rodeo clown, have you? But there is a rodeo clown that is living the optimum life right now, like balling, or a clown, right? Because that's what they do, and they do it exceptionally well. They live a great life being a clown. But you would never think that if I grew up wanting to be, and they wanted to do that all their life. So my point is, at 20 years old, if I could, I would start with, what do I really want to do? Because I'm 20. Like, I hate to say it like this, but the fact of the matter is, you got time to mess up, man. Don't mess up, but you got time to mess up. So you might as well spend the next 4 or 5 years putting energy and time into the thing, because you'll be that much more proficient and that much more exceptional, when you hit the end of that time. And then, you can try multiple things after that, but focus on the thing. Write your real resume, because there is a job for the thing you want to do, whatever it is. A rodeo clown. So that's
awesome. Anybody else? We good? You got one?
You were talking about like oversaturation and how there's so little value now because there's so much like output, right?
Yeah.
And I'll kind of try to tie it into what he's saying, because I was thinking about how you were talking about a time period, and your success, a lot of what you were talking about was tied to a time period. And I look at now, and it's like the do it yourself, TikTok, go viral kind of thing. That's how you even get these labels attention. Or it's like they're not going to develop anybody. They want you to create all this through organic,
Right.
insanity. And just, it's as far as like AI and everything coming too, it's like they're already telling people like, you need to post more. You need to post 100 times a week, and then they're going to use AI to post 1,000 times a week. So like, it's about to get way more oversaturated. There's no way it's going to get less oversaturated. Like,
right.
It's going to get more saturated. And it's just kind of like, trying to see. I don't even know where I'm going with this, but it's like
I get where you're going with it. How do you separate the noise? Is that where you're going with it? Go ahead, finish your sentence.
Only other thing I was going to say is, like, I spend a lot of time trying to see where it's at right now. And, like, I don't like where it's at right now. It's like, nobody wants to hop on and be like, TikTok, whatever, let's go post and do all this crap. And I'm doing 30 things at once. A lot of it I like doing, but there's a limit. It's crazy.
Right.
And a part of me wants to just be like, what's coming next? Like, what's the next, era? Like, because I feel like I don't know. It's hard to see, but maybe I just am encouraged to spend more time on that and say, like, where is it right now? Where is it going? Yeah. How can I, like, get it to there? Like, maybe focus on the future and trying to help it turn, or
absolutely.
compare to fit into where it is right now? Because I don't even really like where it is right now.
You're me. In 2005 all the way through now. That is my school of thought, and that is why I've always stood out. You know what I mean? Because I did an article with some magazine or whatever, and I talked about my. They asked me what I thought separated me from my peers, and the thing that I continue to lean on, which has almost become my religion, is I intentionally have a slight disdain for trends, because I understand, and now at this point, with my marketing brain and with the things that I've accumulated, my understanding, I have an understanding for the burnout factor. Certain things have a burnout factor, but you have to be keen on what's going to stick. Like Logan said, certain things are not going away, but then certain things are going to burn out. And so when you become aware of those jumps in time and things like that, and become a keen on timing, you'll understand what you need to apply your attention to. A good mentor of mine, shout out to Chuck, he know what I'm talking about, but he told me a long time ago, he said, when things start going fast forward, or forward fast, what is it? I don't know. Go backwards. And it's just like what Logan said, everything now, people don't fall for the okie doke. You know what I mean? Like, certain things just work. Certain things just work. everything now is pushing you to output, 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 output. You have to be blah, 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 blah. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do that. But when we look at it, what worked well in every aspect, in every dispensation of pop culture, you know, and we're looking at from the 1950s until now, what worked well? Collaboration, building teams, not doing it yourself. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, don't fall for the temporary thing that's going to last you, you know, that's going to get you the TikTok trends. Do the thing that works. And that might mean, you know, you only put out 3 pieces of content a week versus 20. But guess what? Those 3 are going to be crazy impactful. And if you have a team and if you have a foundation and something solid, it's going to be around. I've outlasted so many of my peers because I don't give a damn about what's happening right now. I never did. I don't care. I fell off of sports. Like, I was an athlete all my life up until I got into the music industry. But once that became my focus, I was no longer interested in sports to the point where they'd be like, oh, man, have you heard of LeBron James? I'm like, who? LeBron James, he's the new hottest thing. Man, listen, I'm building a company right now. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So I was never into the popular thing. I was into the thing that was going to be here. Like, even right now, you know what I mean? I'm planning for the next 10 years of my career. I hear what y'all doing now. I hear it. Cool. Okay. But I'm like you. I'm like, in 10 years, based on... I told the artist, Two Live Bree, shout out. I told him 2 years ago, I said, you know what, man? You need to start doing snap music. You need to start doing, like, you know, the Atlanta bum, 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 bum. I told him that because I said snap music is about to come back. I understand what's going on right now. I understand this, you know, everybody's on this, you know, country trap thing, and everybody's kind of doing the country thing, and blah, 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 blah. But snap music is going to come back. Not maybe a few weeks later, maybe a couple months later, actually, this trend came out where everybody was doing a countdown to Soulja Boy's Crank That. That was the precursor. Now, I just got a prompt where I just came off of a project with Ciara, the R&B pop artist. She wanted snap music. Jaquise just released a snap song that's going crazy right now. Now, this is 2 years later. I was planning this 2 years ago. You see what I'm saying? I wasn't worried about. Now, I did do some country trap stuff, that, you know, that wave, just because that's what some people wanted. But my focus was on 2 years, 3 years later. It's always been that. I've always been able to predict what's going to be the thing because I wasn't focused on it right now. I was focused on something that I could stand on and something that I can do ahead of the time. I'll give you one more story about this. This is why I'm going, and you mentioned this too, Logan. You said a lot of good things. One thing that really kind of kept me is when I was 19, 20 years old, going back to your thing, I was part of a rap crew. And all we wanted to do was be the next G Unit and Locks and Dipset and all of that stuff. And you know, the crew I got on producing for. But something in me said, and we were all at a meeting at a club or something, and I said, and I'm young, I'm 19, 20 years old, and I say, what happens if we don't make it? What are we gonna do if we don't make it as rappers? What are y'all prepared to do? And then, you know, these are rappers and street guys, and like, oh man, you know, and I don't know nothing else. I'm going back to the streets and this and that. I'm like, yeah, that don't work for me. I'm not a street guy, I'm not this, I'm not that. I do music. So how can I prepare now for the longevity? You know what I mean? How can I plan to be here if I don't make it as a rapper, or if I don't make it as a producer? What can I do? Okay, I can engineer. Okay, I can write songs. Okay, I can, you know, blah, 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 blah. So over the course of all of those years, that was always my mindset. So I would say to you, man, drown out the noise and focus. Same thing I said to him, focus on what it is that you do and then build earth under it. That's it.
Awesome.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I'll say one more thing before we stop just because I think that's a really interesting question. You had a lot of great things to say about it. You know, I think that community is going to become more and more important.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, the social stream was originally about community, right? It was just a way to tie together community in virtual space. And now it's just going to be basically this wave of, you know, instantly created content that a lot of it with very little thought, just trying to trigger your dopamine receptors and all of that. But as of right now, maybe in 20 years this will change, but as of right now, AI people aren't going to show up in the community and show up at the meetup, and, you know. And so how do you, as an artist or a producer, build community around yourself? That should be part of your strategy. And
I'll speak to that. I mean, you know, that was the main thing for me that brought me to home. You know what I mean? Because for the longest time, I had gotten into this cycle of producing and doing stuff by myself, and it just got so I was running on fumes, and I said the same thing I just told y'all. Like, what worked for me? Like, what got my juices flowing? It was always having a collaborative environment where, you know, I'm like, for instance, with Soul Diggaz, we had multiple rooms in our studio, and somebody was always doing something. We worked for one of the most iconic and inventive artists. You know what I mean? So we had to be different. We had to try stuff. So there was always something crazy in the next room, and
love that.
I was missing that. I was really missing being able to go to the next room and be like, yo, what's that? Oh, I got an idea for that. Let me get on that. Yeah, write something to it. Or somebody comes in my room and like, oh my goodness, I was really missing that. So I started looking around, and I'm like, man, I used to have a residency over at it used to be called House of Blues. It's called East Irish Studios now. But I wanted to get outside of my house. You know what I mean? I have a studio in my house, and I wanted to get outside the house. I was bored, man. Like, you know, and I don't like people coming to my house. I don't. So I said, you know, so I had the residency there, and that was cool, but it got expensive, and I was like, it's overhead and stuff like that. And I didn't want to build any more studios. But then I started coming to events here. You know, Mimi, shout out to Mimi McCarley. And, you know, she started bringing, you know, having events here, and then I met you, and then met this person, and I'm like, yo, they're doing some really cool stuff here. And I'm hearing stuff in that room, the A room, and I'm like, this feels like what I'm used to. This feels like what I missed. This feels like collaboration. This feels like teamwork. It feels like community. And that's really where, like I said, I've done well by myself, but I've done exceptional with the help of others. And I wanted to get back to that. So coming here and then, you know, now being part of the A&R committee and being part of this and all of these things, being up on this stage it's just really a testament to what you're saying, man. Community is the way of the future. As like I said, man, as they push individuality, what's the thing? Divide and conquer. Getting back to a small group or community base where there's strength in numbers. I promise you, Logan is absolutely right, man. Like, community is going to be the way of the future. There's going to be a lot of innovation in that.
Amazing. All right. Give it another clap for Shalom. We got one more question.
Yo.
Hi.
What's up, man?
I'm Joyce. I'm a rising producer, audio engineer, and songwriter. Right?
Dope.
So I just wanted to, before we switch it up, I just wanted to ask a question. So as a multi-hyphenated person in the music industry yourself, right? What like specific advice can you give to navigate the music industry, not music, but the business behind the industry, because I know you like, you're, you know, involved in the publishing side, not publishing side, but like also trying to empower the youth by starting all these
Programs and
entertainment programs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm the type of person where I'm starting to become that type of person where it's just I want to make sure I leave room for the creative stuff to flow. So I'm that type of person where it's like I do creative stuff first, and then then the business comes after that.
Right.
But even then, I still kind of struggle with the business part. So, is there any specific advice that you can give as
One, trust the process. You know what I mean? Don't bite off more than you could chew. You gotta, it's pretty much the same thing. My rhetoric is pretty much always going to be the same. You got to start with the foundation. First, start with understanding what it is you're trying to accomplish before you start going forward. You know what I mean? Like map a path before you start traveling, and that way you'll have less confusion on your journey. So figure out exactly, get granular, right? That was the hardest thing for me to do. It still is. The hardest thing for me to do is deal with the details. I'm a big picture person. I'm great with big picture. Oh man, I see here, he's doing karate over there, and then he's doing, classical music and blah blah blah. I'm like, what? You know what I mean? So, but if you got in my brain and you really understood the details of it, if I was able to explain the details, you would understand why karate makes sense with classical music and You know what I mean? So, really being able to get granular with my idea, to explain it to myself first and understand what it is I'm going after. That's the first step. Start there, and then trust that you'll get there. I think the anxiety that comes is doing the one thing and then looking at the other thing, but like, am I ever going to get over there? Yes, but do this first. You know what I mean? You'll get there. Trust it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, we got time. We think we don't got time. What are you doing in the hour? You know what I mean? Like, you'll be all right. So do this for the hour, you know what I mean, or for the 2 hours, or for the day, or for the year, or whatever it is, until it's time to go to that next thing. Get good at that, and then once you've graduated, then you'll be invited to these other spaces. You know what I mean? Like, so it might not be time for you to focus on the business yet. I think the problem is we're afraid to make mistakes. We wanna be like, I need to know the business so I don't get screwed in the business, but I also want to be the creative, and I also want to do this and all. No, just get screwed once or twice. It's okay. You won't die. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but we're afraid that that's going to happen, so we don't focus on doing the one thing to the best of our ability. But just do that, and then educate yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, one of my biggest things that I'm a proponent of is blending the music industry with the education industry. And because the education industry is lagging behind, and a lot of people are realizing I don't need to spend $60,000 to get this degree to learn how to do music when I can, come to HOME or go to YouTube or take a course. There's so many options now. You know what I mean? So take advantage of those options. You know what I mean? Really kind of discipline yourself. You got to get disciplined in your self-education. It's not hard to learn about the music business now. There's literally, I want to say millions, but I'm just going to err on the side of hundreds of thousands of videos out there of people like myself who have done this thing. Top-notch people. You could find executives. One of my good friends that I came up in the industry with, Chris Anakute, we used to call him Chris Styles. He signed Katy Perry, Rihanna. He broke their careers, and his whole thing now is breaking down the secrets of the industry. He's spilling the tea. I'm talking about the tea. Google Chris Anakute, and you will see what I'm talking about. I'm hitting him up. I'm like, Chris, shut up. They're gonna kill you, man. Like, but listening to people like him, you really learn those parts of the business that you're talking about. How to, so that's what really goes on behind a publishing deal, or behind this, or behind that, or blah 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 blah. But like I said, I mean, the first thing, man, just focus on getting good at something. You know, and that way people will want to talk to you about something. Because if you're not good at the one thing, then we really have nothing to talk about in the first place.
Good stuff.
Man, autocorrect, bro.
On
Make the mistake and you'll get there. Anakute, yeah.
All right.
ANOKUTE.
Awesome.
There you go.
All right,
Exactly.
y'all.
See, don't be afraid to mess up, man.
We'll keep the studios open for, maybe 20 or 30 minutes if anybody wants to go in and listen to some music.
Yeah,
play your
I would love
music
to.
for each other. That's a big part of what this event is about. We went long tonight, but it was a stellar conversation.
I feel like it went short. It's crazy.
No, it was great. So you guys get to know each other, build some relationships. And come holler at us if you have any questions, okay? Thanks
Awesome,
for being here, y'all. Oh, and shout out to Cali Sober. Shout out to Cali Sober for providing the beverages.
Awesome.
And thanks
gotta grab
again
one.
to Shalom. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Logan, man. It's awesome.